How we doing?
Good.
All right. Just get the cameras in the back just a second. Get set up. Just let me know when you're all ready. Good. All right, Coach. Whenever you're ready, sir.
All right, guys. Hayes in the barn to some degree. I do think it's important from this point forward. There's going to be a lot of mental work. We'll polish this thing up tomorrow, and then certainly again on Friday, and then all the way up until kickoff. But good work today. Good to be in the conditions a little bit. Finally got some rain without lightning, which is positive. Good for the team to experience that. So, what questions we got?
Coach, it's game week. So obviously, you know how big of a challenge this is coming in on Saturday. You talked before how you would like having this big game to kind of give you a measuring stick with your team. What's your confidence level going in right now?
Well, I think confidence comes from preparing the right way. I think this is our first opportunity, as a team, and certainly this new organization relative to the coaches, new way of doing things. But I do believe that we've got a pretty good grip in terms of what that process looks like Sunday to Saturday. Again, we'll have a Thursday and Friday, and then we'll go all the way up until the game. So I think it's important that you stay in the moment, and I can't emphasize that enough, right? I mean, we're going to move on to the next thing. I think as a head coach, in particular as a play caller, you continue to study for the test all the way up until the test. And I think if we have the right approach as a staff, if I have the right approach as an individual, I think those things rub off on the players, and that's certainly the approach we're taking. So we've got some situations to review tomorrow. We've got a few things to polish up, what's in, what's out. What do the players like? In particular, what the quarterback likes. So there's a lot of work left to be done, and I think that going to continue to prepare, and we'll watch the film, and that'll give us a little bit of a pulse on where we're at.
What does that look like, seeing what Anthony likes? Is that reviewing film and showing him, hey, these plays you looked good in, what are you comfortable with? Is that a meeting with him and with the coordinator?
Yeah, no, I think what you've probably seen in the past. I mean, I think once we get through Wednesday, okay, we've installed, for the most part, most of the situations, most of the normal down stuff, most of the field zones, most of the D&Ds, and then, okay, hey, how would you rank these areas? What are the plays that you like? I think it's important that you got a pulse for what the quarterback's comfortable with, right? And sometimes that's more important than what you think, right? So we give the quarterback input. It's one of the great things about being in the meeting room with him throughout the week. You get to hear him, and certainly on the field, between racks, between plays, we get the same thing. So that dialogue and that feedback will go all the way up until the kickoff.
Such a young team. How do you keep these guys from peaking emotionally too early? You need them to peak, to be ready to peak at 7 o'clock on Saturday. How do you keep them from peaking too early?
Well, I think that you talk a lot about how to manage that. We've spent a good bit of time here the last couple of days. I think that we all understand the emotion, the excitement that's going to come in this game. We're not going to have a problem with that with our players, right? I mean, this is a competitive group. They embrace competition. They're excited. We've been beating up on each other for a long time. I think the key is that you give them a structure and a routine so that they're comfortable. I really believe that players develop in consistent environments, right, where you can give them feedback. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate them on what this week is going to look like. We've spent a ton of time on it before we got to this week, and certainly we'll continue to talk about those things.
Billy, how's Ricky, Jason, some of those guys come along and their availability?
No, they're good. They're good. They've been able to participate the last 2 days, moving around well. Obviously had pretty significant time out of it, but we've incrementally been working those guys back into practice. So I know they're both excited about being healthy and, being there and being ready to contribute to the team.
You mentioned this morning on the teleconference about positions maybe that are a little easier to talk about, that there aren't competitions, aren't rotations. Are you able to expand a little bit on that and just where you feel most comfortable going into week one?
Well, I don't know if that'd be a good thing to talk about. But I think we're giving you a depth chart. We will each Wednesday evening based off of the body of work during the week. And obviously a lot of that, that's kind of where we're at now, and those decisions will be they'll be evaluated all the way up until the game day. We talk about how we're going to play the players.
How do you approach captains?
We wait until the season's over, and then we let the players vote and really observe the entire body of work. I think we give opportunities for individual players throughout the season. We'll have individuals that represent the team each week based off of merit, based off of their track record, what we're observing. And then, we give the players an opportunity to, give their opinion at the end of the year. I think it's probably one of the biggest honors that you can get is when your actual teammates vote you to be a team captain. So I think the season is where leadership emerges, right? That's the ultimate challenge, the ultimate adversity. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there and a lot of leadership to be developed. There's going to be tons of opportunity to observe these guys, and I think we'll let the players vote on the full body of work at the end of the year.
When do you pick game captains?
We do it early in the week, so before Tuesday practice. Yeah, we put them out front Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Coach, obviously we're all concerned about how these young players are going to get ready for this big game. What about you? Are you going to take at least 1 second when you're holding back the players and look around and see the environment and say, hey, I'm officially in the swamp myself. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I usually do that right before we kick it off, get to coach this game for a living, right? So it's pretty special to have an opportunity to do something that you love, that you dreamed of doing for a long time. So just get a chance to do it, at a really high level with a great group of people and represent a great place.
Some coaches come out first, some come out last, some right in the middle. Where do you stand?
Say that one more time.
Coming out of the tunnel, some coaches come out first, lead the players out. Some guys come out last. Some guys are right in the mix. What are you going to do?
No, I'm out in front with them. I try to get out of the way. That's what I try to do. Right? Get out of the way, get to the right a little bit, and jog out there like a 43-year-old should, right? So, no, I think the game's about the players. You want to feel good and confident about preparing the players, getting the team ready to play, and then let them go play.
Billy, as you've gone through game week, how do you feel about the physicality of your team, and how physical did you design camp with this game in mind?
I think we probably the format of training camp and the format of how we practice during the week is independent of the opponent. I think that the old adage, you can't train soft and play hard, right? So I think we've got a certain expectation and a brand of football that we want to play, and that requires us to practice a certain way. And we work hard to develop a team that can be physical. And there's a fine line in there, right? We only tackle a certain number of times per year. So very much like, at the professional level, you're always kind of, finding that right balance. You try to practice without anybody being on the ground to keep your team safe, but you got to strike blockers, you got to play low to high, you got to thud the runner. There's a lot of things that go with that. So it's one of the things I'm really proud of our team is I think we've improved in that area, right? We can have a really good physical competitive practice. People aren't on the ground, and we can get out of there healthy and be a better team. We can improve. So, and that's taken some time to learn, but we certainly did that well this week.
Time for just a couple more, guys.
Specifically with tackling, where do you feel like the defense is at with that? We'll find out Saturday.
No, I think it's, you always, I think most coaches would tell you the same thing. You feel like you've worked on it. We certainly have a very specific plan in terms of how we drill it, how we teach it. We work on it the entire year. This is not something that we just do when pads are on. We build it into the entire off-season program. We spend a ton of time researching it, trying to recreate the game for the defensive players. But I think you don't know until you get out there. You know, I mean, I think we improved drastically each game and each year throughout our time at Louisiana. You know, I thought each year we improved fundamentally. We tackle better. But it's one of the first things that we ask when we're quality controlling the game is how many missed tackles did we have. And we know, you know, what's about right for us. You know, if we have more than that, then typically – and, you know, we take each one of those plays and we break those down to the players and we teach them fundamentally how they can do those things better. And typically it comes down to angles, approach, eye discipline, working with the teammates around you. You know, team defense is it's not – sometimes individuals, players make mistakes, but in reality, you know, it's a team game.
Can you speak to the spring and the fall that Dante Zanders has had, you know, just to move up to the depth chart, a guy that, you know, switching positions in January?
Yeah, Dante Zanders is, you know, where would we be without the guy right now? You know, I mean, I think he's been a godsend, and certainly what a great kid to be around. I mean, he's got a great story. I can still remember when we first got here and he walks in the office, you know, and he's thinking about leaving, you know. It's a great story, you know, but we have a couple of injuries in spring ball. He makes the move. He's a very bright kid. He picked it up quickly, and I think the guy's got a future. I mean, he's 6'5", 260 pounds. He's heavy-handed, strong at the point of attack. He can run. He can catch. And he's smart enough to process it all. You know, and I think to play that position, you got to be very, very intelligent.
And then what's your level of eavesdropping or interaction when Patrick's calling the defense in game? Are you kind of a stay out of the way and have first right of refusal, or are you on the head?
Yeah, no, Patrick and I have been working together for a number of years now. You know, I let Patrick coach. You know, I mean, I think one of the things that we do is we work hand in hand together the entire year. You know, so we're playing chess throughout every part of the installation. You know, we've got a little bit of a gentleman's agreement in terms of what that progression looks like. So, you know, we play complementary football here. He's well aware of what we do. I'm well aware of what he does. I know why he's doing what he's doing. He's an extremely bright coach. And, you know, you think about what we did at Louisiana. We went from 124 to 25 to 18 to 11th in the country in total in scoring defense. So, you know, and he was behind all of that. So he's a very bright coach. We're going to let him coach.
The last question, Edgar?
Yeah, speaking of good stories, I mean, Anthony Richardson is a Gainesville kid, starting high school here. I mean, it's a rare opportunity for a local guy to be the quarterback of the Gators, and it's happened before. But what do you think of just that part of it, being an inspiration to the community, rallying the community?
I have nothing but great things to say about Anthony. You know, I mean, he, you know, you don't know until you get on the inside, right? I mean, obviously we've watched him play from afar. I can still remember sitting on the couch watching the Oklahoma game, and he goes in the game, and I was like, wow, you know, that guy's got a bright future. You know, he made a few plays in that game that I thought were pretty special. So, you know, you get here, done a little bit of homework coming into the building, but, you know, I can't say it enough. The guy's selfless. He's humble. He cares about people. He's a diligent worker. You know, he's a great example to his teammates. I think he's learning how to, you know, be a big-time quarterback. He's getting comfortable with his role. Very impressed with some of the growth from a leadership standpoint. So, guy's a great competitor. He's, you know, he's been dreaming of this opportunity, and he's excited about it. I can't wait to watch the guy play.
Community aspect of that part, just
Yeah.
you know, kids looking up to him. You know, I mean, he knows a lot of people in Gainesville.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique in the fact that he is from right here, you know. And I do believe that there's a lot of things that come with this game, right? And I think that a lot of the things that we encourage the players to do, they help themselves by doing that. But more importantly, they make an impact on young people that are watching. And you may not even know they're watching you, right? And it's not just the time that you're between the lines in the swamp and everybody's watching, right? It's when you're at the local restaurant and you're at the rec center, you're on campus, you're back where you grew up at. I think he's got an incredible platform, one that I've been impressed in his approach. He understands that, the importance of setting an example. He knows that young people are watching him. I'm excited with what he's doing with this opportunity.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, guys, thank you all.